So I was doing a little researching, and I got my statistics from Google. They may not be correct. They might be misrepresented or manipulated or whatever. But I wanted to use Google statistics so that if anybody else is watching and think, oh, I'm not sure about that, you can Google it yourself and you can see yourself, so that you get the same statistics, the same information that I got. But I'm just going to get into it. In the UK public pays in through taxes and just mandatory deductions, other things. The UK public pays in to the treasury just under 1.1 trillion every year. That's the current level it's at, the new high. I'm going to compare it to the United States, and the United States pay in 1.1 trillion every year. But the United States is huge, and the United States is paid in US dollars. I'm talking about pound sterling. If you do the conversion between 1.1 trillion pound sterling into United States dollars, it's over 1.3. That means the people of the UK pay in, and it sounds like this should be rubbish, but it's not. Amazingly, the people of the UK actually pay in more annually into the UK Treasury than the people of the entire United States do. How? Let's do a comparison of size. The UK is made up of four countries, right? So you've got England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. So this $1.1 trillion, Scotland pays in, directly responsible to the UK Treasury, about 7%, 7.5% of that entire 1.1 trillion. Wales contributes around 3 to 3.5%, and Ireland doesn't directly contribute to the UK Treasury. Okay, so let's rule them out and say just England alone pays in, what are we saying, just over 90%. So Scotland and Wales between them is just over 10%. So let's say between 10 and 11, maybe even 12%. So what would 10% of 1.1 trillion be? What, 110 billion, something like that? So we're still talking about 900 billion. So let's say that England pays in 900 billion into the Treasury every year. England is 52,000 square miles. Comparison to size to the US is, there's a list of all of the 50 US states, starting at the beginning, the top one being the biggest, which is Alaska, and then the smallest at the bottom, which escapes me. So England, if it was a United State, would be the 32nd smallest state, just neatly positioned between Alabama and Mississippi. One of them's 48,000 square miles, the other one's 52,000 square miles. So England's like the size of Alabama and Mississippi. So what we pay in, let me put it to you this way, if you're American, especially if you're in Alabama or Mississippi, it would be the equivalent of just you fine people of Alabama or just you people of Mississippi paying for the entire US Treasury on your own. No shit. Look it up. This is real. Next time you Americans think you've got it hard, just stop. So, we pay in 900 billion on our own, just 52,000 square miles of England, however many millions of people that is. What does the government do with the money? Well, they misappropriate and waste a lot of it. But let's say, for example, it spends on average around 17,000 per person per year on Scottish. It spends around 17,000 per person per year on the Welsh, and around 16 and a half per year on the Irish. They don't pay it. It spends 15,000 per head per year on us Brits, on us English. How amazing is that? How marvellous. I mean, who the fuck would ever want to be British? And then you got to think, not just that, but also in the States, the US government spends around 19,000 US dollars per year on its citizens per head. So if you're English, the government only spends about 15,000 a year on you, but it wants you to pay in closer to 20,000 a year. So currently what it's expecting is around 20,000 per person and 40,000 per household. Although if that's not hard enough a situation, then you add to that on top, you don't get healthcare if you're English. You can if you're not English, especially if you come from outside the UK. But the NHS, they triage everything. So they triage the English right out of it and they put everybody else first. So you can't get healthcare. You don't really get education. If you're an adult, you can't get adult education or higher education because you can't afford it. They've got this national apprenticeship levy that we pay for, but you ask around, I don't know the last time I met a young fella or a young bird who's on an apprenticeship, so I don't know what they do with that. And then you look at what things cost. Well, there's a graph that I'm going to upload when we make this video, and I'll put screenshots of all of these statistics as well, so you can see them as well. But the largest percentage of that 1.1 trillion, a huge, if you look at it as a pie, there's a huge slice, which is 330 billion a year, and that's for other, which it could mean anything, couldn't it? What's other? What does other mean? It could mean anything. Well, they've already accounted for the NHS. That's something like 200 to 250 billion. The royal family is a small amount. You know, let's not hit the royal family. It's only like 100 million. I mean, that's pocket money if you're English. So you pay for the NHS, you pay for the DWP, that's an expensive one. You pay for all sorts of things. But we got this first past the post government system, which means we're paying for 3 or 4 parties at any one time, even though 2 or 3 of them are shadow governments. They're not even serving the public. We're still paying for them. So the first past the post thing is very expensive. And I think that that's where that 330 billion a year goes. That is all paying for those politicians. Then they've got their second homes and their 3 cars and their limo drivers and their expensive lunches, and they claim for everything twice over. And then you've got to account for the scandals and the Downing Street knees ups. I'd love to go to one of them. They sound wild. So, as if that isn't a really crap situation to be in. On top of that, consider this. The UK police hunt and pursue and just hunt is the right word. They hunt the UK public mercilessly, and even in cases where you haven't done anything wrong, and they're known for it, even in cases where you haven't done anything wrong, they still get after you. And when you consider all of that, it leaves me asking a question. I ask you, maybe some of you can help provide me the answer. How on earth can anybody live? How can you survive? How have we made it this far? Later.